The swift is a medium-sized bird. The length is roughly about 18 centimetres, but the wingspan is actually a lot bigger. So they've got these really big scimitar or scythe-shaped wings that can be up to about 40 centimetres wide, so pretty big. Nevertheless, in the hand, they're quite a tiny, lightweight bird. They only weigh about the same weight as a Cadbury's cream egg, I've been told, 40 grams. Tiny little bird, really, but they appear larger because of these big wings. And sometimes people get them confused with house martins or swallows because they look fairly similar. House martins, swallows, they're going to have some white on it. Swifts generally very dark brown. They actually look black, and they fly relatively fast, especially when they're in groups and they're screaming around buildings. I mean, it's a beautiful sight on a summer's evening, a lovely warm summer's evening. You hear the screaming cry flying low around buildings, and this is their group social behaviour, so you can look out for that, and then you tend to know, yeah, this must be a swift.
Here at the Cathedral today, I'm talking to Daniel Cronenberg about swifts and the connection that swifts have with Salisbury Cathedral. Daniel, we regard you as a bit of a local expert here on swifts, and we hear a lot about different bird populations being in decline. What's the status with swifts now in the UK?
The sad thing is swifts are in a serious decline. A period between 1995 and 2015, so that 20-year period, they declined more than 20%.
And what are the reasons behind this?
Yeah, there may be some issues where they overwinter in Africa, because they're only with us for about 3 months of the year. The rest of the time they're in Africa. There may be some issues there, maybe some issues when they're migrating, like some birds might not have enough food on the way. And obviously insect decline in this country may be an issue, but we also know that probably the major issue in our country and probably in Europe is the lack of nesting spaces, because swifts nest in our buildings, and they have done probably since Roman times. But because we're knocking down old buildings that have nooks and crannies where they fly into, we're knocking those buildings down or restoring old buildings, they come back and they don't have a home because they are very loyal to their nesting site.
Okay, so there's an obvious conservation response to that. So the actions are to put up boxes and presumably encourage local authorities? Or?
Well, the first priority should be not to block up the nesting sites. So if people are unsure whether they have nesting swifts, in Salisbury, I'm happy to go around. I'm from a group called Salisbury and Wilton Swifts, but there are 80 local groups in the whole country. So if people want to know if they have nesting swifts, there'll always be someone that they can find who will help them out. Second, I would say, rather than putting up swift boxes, which probably will only last maybe 15 years, building into new builds, which is something we're encouraging, and people are encouraging builders and planners and councils all over the country to put in integral nesting bricks. So these are bricks which will go into the building and be there for the lifetime of the building. So they're hollow bricks, they have a small hole, and we've had, I think, about 35 bricks in 4 different sites over Salisbury already. We've encouraged people to put these into new builds.
It's such a simple fix, and it's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, it's a species very much tied to our urban environment, so it's a species that everyone can get involved with, isn't it? So have you found there's been a good response from the people at Salisbury?
Yeah, it's been lovely. I mean, for example, going to schools, I've given talks at schools, and I'm always willing to do this, and actually I think there are now 3 schools that have nest boxes up. So it's great talking to the kids, and they get very enthused, and they make nice cards, send cards to me afterwards with drawings of swifts on. And one thing that they're always amazed about, and this is the thing that I love to tell people about swifts, is once they leave the nest, these birds fly. They don't come down to the ground. They even sleep in the air.
Wow.
And when they are not nesting, and they're always flying, this means they build up a certain amount of mileage. So it's estimated that the average swift, swifts can live up to about 20 years, but average swift will be maybe 7 years long. This bird will fly up to 2 million miles in its lifetime. So very close by in Serum College, the northeast corner of the Close, there's Serum College, and they have about 20 nests in there, just actually in the building, not in nest boxes. And they're really happy to have them. So in the town, the cathedral, just behind the louvres, so those wooden slats, we've put a cabinet, a very large cabinet of boxes. So there's 9 boxes on top of each other. So the idea is the swifts will fly in between the louvres, up into a small hole, and then they can nest, so they're enclosed, they're not going to be flying around inside the tower. And they'll be nesting hopefully in these boxes.
But what about the peregrines? I mean, peregrines, as we know, are avian predators.
Generally, swifts may be a bit too fast, for peregrines sometimes, but also it's thought that peregrines will take either young birds or sick birds, and they will, yes, occasionally take a swift in this area and elsewhere, but other swift experts have told me that they've never seen a huge problem of peregrines taking swifts.
Since we've had peregrines nesting here over the last 7 years, I think only on 2 occasions have we noticed a swift carcass on the turf. So the Cathedral Close, a good place to come and see swifts.
Yeah, on a warm summer's evening, you'll see sometimes around Serum College, also St Anne Street a little bit further away, you'll see up to 50, 60, sometimes 70 birds flying around, socialising together.
That's absolutely fantastic. Well, come down to the cathedral and see some swifts. Thanks very much, Daniel.
Thank you.